Okay. The first item
I'm
on the
so
agenda.
sorry.
No, did you get that first part to begin with or no?
No, I clicked record, but then I noticed a different recording button, and then that's when it said that. I think it recorded to my computer, but not the cloud. So then I clicked to record to the cloud.
All right, well, let me just start over for the record since it's a
Sorry.
recorded full
Oh,
meeting.
you're good.
This is a meeting of the State Advisory Council for Special Education's Legislative Committee for February 12th. We are going to proceed. We have the first item on the agenda would be if there's any public comment. Want to know if we have anybody that wishes to speak on public comment.
It doesn't look like we have anyone for public comment.
All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. I want to thank Christine as always for doing a great job. She had sent out the minutes. Um, Wanted to know if everybody had a chance to look at them. Um, Trying to erase stuff here. Uh,
This is the December 12th ones, right?
yeah, so these were the
Yeah.
draft meeting minutes.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, I was not at that meeting, so I wasn't able to do those minutes. So someone else did the minutes. So if anything does need to be adjusted, or corrected, more than happy to do it. So I try to do it, I try to
Looks good. I mean,
summarize as best I
yeah,
could.
it was like 3 months ago, so who the hell knows what happened on
No, it's
December
like
12th?
over,
So,
I think it's a
No,
year
no, no.
ago.
oh,
It was in
it was 20.
2024. And so I wasn't even around
Oh,
then
this is
with this group.
2024?
So I'm abstaining.
What? So we're legit. Okay. I thought it was a typo, honestly. This is not 2024. That's got to be a typo because we were talking about the 2025
Yeah, no,
legislative session.
we haven't called a meeting to order.
Okay.
That was the last one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then, motion to accept the minutes submitted on the December 12th, 2024
Do we have a
minutes.
second? I will second, or no, Susan will second, so reflect
Okay.
that Susan will second. And then all in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, and abstentions would be those who were not present. So Missy and
Missy,
Becky had indicated that they weren't present.
I
Um,
wouldn't know.
Yeah. Who knows? There's
I'm
like
s-
two,
I-
three
I'm
people
struck
there.
by I'm struck by the fact that the topics that were discussed are topics that were brought up recently too. So as far as setting the LOB breakfast, that's why it kind of went over my head. So
Well,
Yeah. That's why
actually,
I thought
yeah,
it was
I
a
was
typo.
there, right? I mean, my name is
Yeah.
in there, I think. I looked at them briefly.
Yeah. You were.
Yeah, so
Robin,
I'm a
you mean you
yay.
don't remember what you were doing in 2024 December? Come on. Thank you for joining us this morning, by the way.
You're welcome. I'm heading up, so I'm gonna turn off all my bits and pieces
Stuff.
here.
You got it.
So
Yeah.
can we just, because Nachi's only here for a couple of minutes and he really
Yeah, let's
wanted
go.
to talk while Robin was on.
yeah,
Yeah.
Is that okay, Jeff?
yeah, no, that's fine. Let's take it out of
Probably
order.
what you're going to do anyway. Sorry.
Do you want to do which is the notch you want to talk about?
Homeschooling.
Oh, yeah, the whole schooling bill. Yes, I saw that's in you. Go ahead, Notch.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody. Sorry, I do have to get off in a little bit, but yesterday I was concerned about House Bill 5468 specific to special education. But then I read Commissioner Russell Tucker's written testimony, and she addresses my concerns in there. She talks about that special education, basically education disability services need to be considered for those students who may be, according to the bill, part-time students. And also she addresses something that I didn't look at, which was English language learners. So it's all addressed in her testimony there. So I don't need to raise it further because it has been addressed in my view.
All right, and
All
then
right, I
just
will definitely highlight it, not chief for the folks working on the bill on my end. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, just special education needs to be looked at for a child who,
Absolutely.
because we've never had part-time students before, and what does that mean and how does that look? And especially if they're staying for extracurriculars, 504 plans also go into extracurriculars. So all that would just need to be
Notch, could
identified.
you say again who gave the comments?
It was Commissioner Russell Tucker from the State Department of
Oh,
Education.
okay. Yes,
Her
okay.
written testimony
All
addresses
right.
the concerns that I talked about in our SAC yesterday.
Thanks,
Okay.
Nachi, for bringing it up and for finding her testimony amid the hundreds that are in that list.
Yeah, that list
That's
is
an
that's
impressive feat in and of itself. So,
I'm
No,
scrolling through it now. It's crazy.
yeah.
it's, as you can understand from my constituents, my stakeholders, this is an important situation and I
For sure.
needed to look at it. And I don't often have time to look at other things that are going on, but this was that important. And then just as
Thank
a
you.
member of SAC, special education is our forte, so that just needed to be talked about. Thank you all for listening.
And Nachi, before
Thank you, Nachi.
you had said for your constituents, just put on the record who your constituents are, please.
The Children in Foster Care and the Department of Children and Families.
Okay, just wanted to have that, so that's good. All right, thank you, Notch.
Thank
And
you.
thanks, Robin, for bringing it back to the committee.
Thank you.
Yeah, everything's amazing. Let me try to go back to, all right, so, under old business, there would be discussion regarding the pending and proposed legislation. We did have the bill that got passed through that omnibus bill, the 298, that showed that within the restraint and seclusion notice will be within excuse me, the day of, not just 24 hours. So that was passed. Something that we'd asked for in the past was to have it in the language of, that was not included. Another item that we had asked for was as far as the inclusion in the crisis teams, for each school, that there be a member of the special education department or wing. That was not in there. And there was also something about training for school security guards to get some training. The way the bill had been originally proposed was that there would be a shoot, don't shoot thing. We wanted something a little bit more for interaction. That wasn't passed. I don't know that we can bring any of those up at this point, however.
Representative Comey, on the 504 bill, are they going to include anything about what Jeff was saying about the someone in a crisis team that has experience, not necessarily special education, but students with disabilities?
That's not in there now. No.
It's not, because you would
No,
think.
that's the 504 bill, and I'm sorry, Robin, but you
Go
can
ahead.
chime in. The 504 bill is mostly about trying to it creates that office of the ombudsperson and educational ombudsperson, and well, sort of was created last year. It just wasn't funded in staffing that and giving a place for people to file complaints regarding 504s to kind of backfill the gap that might be left by the federal, OCR being eliminated. So that's kind of the focus on that. So again, could other things be added? It's a pretty rough bill, the 504 one right now. There's a lot, I say pretty rough. It's detailed out, but there's some work to do on it. But that's the gist of that 504 bill. The SB 424 is, I think, the one you're talking about.
So then, Jeff, are these things that Jeff is discussing, are these things that we have to roll the next year that we don't think they'll get in this year?
Yes.
Okay. So Jeff, we got to stay on those.
In my opinion, Robin.
I think Andrew, Attorney Feinstein, he made some very, very good comments. I think, we have a 504. Wait, we have the ADA bill.
That's separate,
Yeah, that's
right?
one.
And that's separate. That
You're breaking up a bit, Robin.
dovetail together with this 504.
Yeah.
They dovetail, right? And
They
so
do.
I
I
think
see.
that there's going to be a comprehensive approach.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they do
Thank you.
dovetail, and yeah, so 424 is the 504 one that's in front of government oversight, and then 430, SB 430 is the ADA one, which is in front of human services. That one's fairly, I actually sort of disagreed with some of Andy's Feinstein's comments on the ADA one. It just seems to complicate matters more. Really, what they're trying to do is sort of try to simply codify ADA in state law and understanding, and Andy brings up a good point. We have some higher protections, for people with disabilities in Connecticut than federal law, but we just want to make sure that, it's sort of like the most protections available. So anyway, yeah, he brought up the points about which title, and it's again, it's a huge ADA is a thousands of page document at the federal level. So we're not going to do that this year. If we try to get into the weeds on ADA, it's not going to happen this year. Human Services they don't have time to deal with it. So I'm hoping that they pass it as is personally. And again, just to codify the ADA protections. So that's
But what,
my
what,
hope.
what Andy said was SEEK represents students with disabilities and their parents and guardians. Students with
Yeah, I read
disabilities
his
are
thing.
protected
I
by
read
the
it.
Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Section
Yeah.
504 to Rehabilitation, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act. While there are substantial differences in the institutions covered and in the enforcement procedures between Section 504 and ADA, the fundamental protection under each are generally the same. Due to that, Raise Bill 430 should be amended to incorporate by reference both the ADA and Section 504. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and again, we have protections in place for all of these things, sort of now, but not all at the state level, right? So we have IDA protections through due process, through the Department of Ed, through IDA. We don't necessarily have the complaint process in place for 504s, which is why that bill 424 has been raised. And we don't have the protections necessarily by ADA. So, I mean, I agree with most of what he says. If we complicate things, it's not going to pass this year. I mean, and Matt Lesser, the chair of Human Services, said as much. Like they don't have time to deal with it if it's going to be a big rat's nest. But we'll see. I mean, regardless, for this group, for special education, advisory council, I think generally speaking, I would assume we're in support of both of those bills, with tweaks to make sure everything's covered. And none of us are going to get in the weeds enough on the details of those things to really provide testimony or written testimony, I don't think, unless somebody feels otherwise.
I've
So-
already personally provided testimony on both of those when they came out.
So I'm saying as a SAC, though, as
Right,
this
as a
group
SAC,
as
no.
this group sits here right now, I don't see us being able to get somewhere in the next few days to provide testimony on those two bills, because these things all have deadlines in the next couple of weeks, and enough has been said already, to Robin's point, by Andy and others, and many others. You can see the testimony.
So let me ask a question under the new business topic, which would be whether to go forward. Is there any thoughts about us trying to compose some sort of commentary or just?
So the two on those two, my opinion is no, but I'll defer to others as well, and then I'll comment about a couple other bills in front of Ed.
All right.
But does anyone feel differently about those 504 ADA? I mean, do you feel we need to try to?
I'm just going to say that I have a major trial coming up in a couple of court hearings, so I'm not really going to be able to get pen to paper on this stuff. So
Yeah. Well, and just our process of trying to get pen to paper, get everyone a consensus, like it's challenging. And are we going to say anything new that's already not in front of them?
right.
I don't think so. You know what I mean?
Well, we
And
can always do a new
broadly,
tape.
there's support. I mean, the bottom line was both of those bills, there's broad support for both of those. You know what I mean? There's a few pieces here and there about how you fund it, how do you staff whichever organization's going to be responsible for it, right? This educational ombudsperson in the case of 504, CHRO in the case of, like, you got to staff those things, you got to fund them. So there's those issues. They know that. They've got plenty of testimony on those things. So
Yeah, I would say that there is some benefit to us weighing in, even if it's redundant to what's been said already, just to, to put our mark on it. So
we could do a very simple one then. I mean, if the group wants to say on each of those 424 and 430, in general, we're supportive of these without discussing the details of the legislation. We're in support of these. We could do that. That's a simple two-sentence.
Are there, I would defer because I'm saying I had a hearing in the appellate court on Tuesday, so I'm a little bit focused, and I got an FOI hearing tomorrow. Are there aspects of the 504 and of the 424 and the 430 that we all agree that we support? So I could do a quick letter saying we support, regarding those, and are there things that are above the hedges here that we could just put our mark on? If you don't have to answer it, if you want to send me something, I'd be happy to construct something real quick, kind of along the lines that Tom said, that, just let me know if you want to do that, or do you?
Yeah, again, yeah, that's fine with me. I'm submitting testimony on all these anyway as DRCT. So, but as a SAC, I think it's sort of generally we support providing students with 504s protections, yada yada, and ADA. you know.
Okay, so I could do something to say, then that would be, we don't, so would that be fine with you guys if I do that? I do a general support thing. All right, so let me do that without getting into the weeds there. Is that okay, Missy, with you?
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, so we'll do like a general one. All right, cool. Anything else? Tom, you said that there were some new things coming up that you wanted to.
Well, not coming up because most of this stuff happened already, but we can still, you know, if we want. So the two ones that to me popped out at me and all the education ones the last couple of weeks of public hearings, where there's one that is around the private equity ownership of private programs, private providers. And we're not going to get consensus on that. Thank you, Nachi, for being here, and thank you for your work. So I'm just bringing it up as an issue. We have obviously opinions, as you might imagine, at the RCT, but I don't think, based on the broad stakeholder group that we have, you know, with us in this SAC, that we're going to have a consensus on that one. So I'm just bringing it up because it was a special education focus. There's a number of special education focused bills, you know, on the list, but that's one of them. That's SB 309 is that one, and it just speaks, among other things, to private equity ownership in private programs. The other one is House Bill 5325, which is speaks to adding cameras in seclusion rooms.
Okay.
That seems a little cleaner for us to comment on, but again, I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody because can be a tricky subject too. But that's another one that is out there. And that's got a little bit also in it. That one also has some stuff in there about the funding and the funding increases, allowable funding increases, which, you know, may have a difference of opinion on the SAC as well. So this is where it's hard as a SAC, and I know I said this before, and I sort of sound like a broken record, but it's difficult to get consensus on some of these things that have multiple parts, and you might be for one part and against another part, so it gets a little tricky.
Right. So as Tom is saying, I have the 5325 in front of me. The first part was about the cameras in the seclusion room, and as he indicated, the second part is talking about if there's going to be a private provider, that there be a written contract in advance and it has to be on record.
But also with the costs and stuff and the cost increases, like there's something in there about that, and it just gets a little in the weeds.
I don't know if we as a SAC have actually discussed cameras in seclusion rooms and things like that. But I do know that on Senate Bill 309, we have discussed, especially last year, Tom, with everything that was going on, the private provider, owner operated by private equity. We've, as a SAC, kind of came to a consensus that we supported that last year, if I recall. Anyone else recalls that? I'm sure we're always ready for a working group.
Yeah, I don't even know who's on this call right now because I can't see all the people on the call.
Prohibition on private equity and special. I'm not really all that.
Well, Anna's on the call. There we go. Anna, what's your?
And Missy has her hand.
Oh, okay. I didn't see Missy. Sorry. Go ahead, Missy.
Yeah, I am on a call. I keep losing connection, so I heard Susan start saying something and then it bumped her off. Or
it's just that one bill, Anna. The one bill, SB 309, is talking about trying to prohibit private equity ownership in approved private programs. So that's that piece that, you know, I just don't know where CAPCEF stands on it. That's all. I didn't read their testimony on it.
Well, CAPCEF does not, will not be.
They're neutral.
Yes.
Okay, I figured they might be neutral.
Because they are members of CAPCEF as well, approved and not approved.
Yeah. So as a SAC member,
for-profit or non-profit, rather. We're not non-approved. They're not included, but for-profit are included in our membership, so we cannot as CAPCEF.
Right. So would that preclude you from supporting us in supporting that bill?
I think I would just stay neutral.
Can I ask a question? So I'm not in the realm that you guys are in. So the statement of purpose says prohibit the Department of Education from approving a private provider of special education services that is owned or operated by a private equity company. What does that mean?
So, yeah, I mean, and this is going forward. It doesn't eliminate ones that are currently private equity owned because they didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. But it's basically if there's a company that runs a private program, private school,
Right.
and I'll give the example of High Road because that's the example that we used in our report, right? If High Road were going to the state right now, today, or after this bill would pass, I should say, if it were to pass, and say, hey, we want, to be approved to be a provider, this would preclude the State Department of Ed from approving their application because they're a private equity owned organization that runs the private provider program.
What does that mean to say a private equity owned thing? How's that different?
These private equity companies that are buying up hospitals and nursing homes and schools and everything, right? I mean, right. If they're not familiar with the private equity firms, I mean, it's not just a privately owned
for profit.
Yeah, it's for profit, but there are also private approved schools that are for profit that are not owned by other equities.
Right.
Like Meliora or
right. They could just be owned by some guy or some
exactly
group,
exactly. A parent starts a school, whatever,
right. And it's privately owned.
But it's for but the law, that bill does not include those. The way that I read it is just
private equity. Correct. That's the way I read it as well.
Solterra, High Roads.
And it wouldn't stop those from existing the way I read it. It's future. It's the way I read it,
It's what?
Grandfathered in. They're
grandfathered in, right? It's
we're dealing with the same thing in early childhood, the kids committee. There was a private equity bill where we would not allow that private equity childcare centers would not, they would go to the back of the list for funding.
Right.
For assistant state Smart Start.
And I'll read it real quick.
Early Start.
Okay. And I'll read this quick, Jeff. It's a short section, right? So this is in 309, SB 309. The State Board of Education shall not approve a private provider of special education services as defined in Section 1091G of the General Statutes that is owned or operated by a private equity company. And that's on or after July 1st, 2026. So it's, again, after that point, they can't approve. It doesn't do anything to the ones that exist now, right? But if somebody comes to them in July 2nd, 2026 or after, they wouldn't be able to approve them. As used in this section, private equity company means an asset class consisting of equity securities and debt and operating companies that are not publicly traded on a stock exchange. That's almost too many words for this small brain of mine to handle, but it's private equity is generally, right, these portfolios that own companies, right? Portfolios that own companies, not a group of people or ownership group or LLC or a corporation or individuals, right? Private equity. And the case has been made, and you see that in the news media with hospitals and, the Waterbury Hospital, I mean, it's just complete nightmares. And, and she talks about early childhood and nursing homes. There's lots of situations, and they're attacking this in a lot of different ways because private equities are really screwing things up. And I keep talking and other people can't talk. Missy, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I don't mind you keep talking because it helped to clarify some things for me. I had my hand up more about the cameras in the seclusion rooms. I wasn't part of the group when you had this conversation last year, so I don't have any info to share on that. But I do thank you for providing that better explanation for me as far as what it was about. My question about 5325 is, are the cameras only in the seclusion rooms? I heard some rumble about how they thought it was going to be in regular classrooms, in pull-out classrooms. I think people would have a real hard time with that.
Yeah. So I can read for you exactly where it got added into this bill. and it's regarding this section of whatever, it doesn't matter, section 1023, 236B or whatever. No school employee shall place a student in seclusion except as an emergency intervention. This is existing law, yada, yada, yada. No student shall be placed in seclusion unless the student is monitored by an employee, which is current law. And the areas in which a student is equipped with a window or other fixture allowing a student clear line of sight beyond the area of seclusion. And what they've added is is equipped with a camera and a window with a fixture, So they've added a camera to this piece on seclusion. So it's just specific to that little piece. There's and again, I know people like get worried about things and classrooms like that's not addressing that at all. I mean, I don't read anything close to that. This is very narrow. That piece adds 3 words, a camera and to that piece. That's it into that seclusion piece.
And Tom, I would like to offer that, we've gotten a lot of calls from families who like their children have gotten really hurt and had there been a camera in there, like literally peeling off pieces of the wall and eating them, and left in there, and nobody saw them do it.
And again, the law states that they're supposed to be monitored, but we know what that looks like, right? For most of us that have experienced this or been part of this, it's they're looking at their cell phone and they're sitting there on their like whatever. But anyway, so that's that piece. It's very narrow.
So what's our general thought on that? Would you think that we should include that, just like in general, we're in favor of the inclusion of cameras in the seclusion rooms?
I see no reason why not, unless someone says otherwise.
Oops, where are you?
Anna?
Oops, sorry. I finally am able to.
Anna's on like 2 different places. Now you're muted again. You got like all kinds
Sorry,
of... There we go. We can hear you now.
I'm getting on the right way, and I meant to raise my hand. Susan, you said that we can't comment on that. And I didn't hear why.
We've generally, unless we've discussed it as a SAC
Right.
and kind of come to a consensus, it's kind of been how we roll.
Right.
But I know we all think it would be a wonderful, I'm not speaking for everyone, but I mean, I do support this personally, but
do I.
I don't know if
So do I. And
anybody
I mean,
on the SAC has written testimony not supporting this.
I actually support it from a program view because I don't see any negative in this.
Well, just the cost, right? Just the cost.
It's the cost, but
The cost and watching the videos and that kind of stuff. No, I know, but there's that pieces of it, right? That's people
let
might
me
have
say
opposition.
something about the cost. If districts are worried about the cost, if schools are worried about the cost of investigation is much higher than purchasing one little camera. And if you're doing everything right, you're good.
Yeah. But to your point, Susan, I mean, that's I defer to Missy, and you guys, like, do we, again, this is part of the process and that makes this challenging, right? Because bills come up and they come up quick, and this one's actually a couple weeks old, but we're just been a little slow on this one. We support as a legislative committee, then we say, hey, full committee, are you supportive of this piece? Now, this particular bill has a separate piece, a separate section about the written contracts for APSEPs. Actually, it says private providers, not approved, but private providers submit base tuition and cost for services. And Anna, you I'm sure seen that. So again, that piece I am supportive of the RCT, but I don't know if others are. So we can delineate that and say, hey, okay, we're only going to comment about section 2, right? And we're in support of section 2 camera piece. Thank you, guys. Thank you, people. But not comment on the other one, right? We're neutral on the other one, if that's okay. And actually section 1 is the camera one.
Yeah, generally what we've done in the past is we've raised something, we've come to a feeling in the legislative committee, then we pass it over to the executive committee to have them agree to it. We don't usually go, because of the speed with which legislation is going, we don't generally go the whole vote of the whole thing.
Yeah,
we can do it that way. We can draft something for me to pass around to you guys to say thumbs up, thumbs down, or hold on, change it. and then to do it to the executive committee. And we don't even have to have, we generally don't even have a meeting in a way. We just kind of get a nod of the head. So because of the speed with legislation goes.
Love it. Anna?
Did you say Anna?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, CAPSIF will be staying very neutral on that one
I figure.
because for many of us, it actually is going to be a good thing because with reasonable cost, for example, Oak Hill is $1 million loss now before and our fiscal year is July. So reasonable cost, we should be raising tuition to cover our costs. So, but that's not to say for every, so that's why CAPSIF will be staying neutral, but the language is so vague. I'm not sure
It's super vague. It's
Yeah.
super vague. It's super vague.
We discussed it in our legislative committee and
I'm not sure how much it accomplishes anyway, to be honest with you.
Which aspect are you talking about, Anna? You talking about the cameras being vague?
No,
the tuition.
The
Oh,
tuition.
we're not gonna we're not gonna
Yeah.
comment on that because it's on both sides. The only thing is with the 5325 would only be the camera.
All right, so then it's just section 1.
Yes.
All right. That makes sense.
So Jeff, you will write up something and then send it out to the executive committee for us to review.
I'll write something and I'll just have you guys say okay on the legislative committee. Once you guys give it thumbs up, we'll send it over to the executive committee and then we'll submit it, okay?
And I think you can keep it
Sounds
super
good.
simple on that
Thank
one
you.
too, right? Super
Yep.
simple, Jeff. Just like, hey, this bill, section 1, we support adding cameras into seclusion rooms, period.
Yeah.
Like super quick and simple because
Yeah.
that's all it is.
And I think to Anna's point about the cost savings, while it will be an investment for the programs, it will be, we anticipate the cost savings
Yeah.
Overall.
in the legal arena, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, it would just seem to me that if you have the camera in there and you're able to access it on your mobile phone, you might be able to be down the hallway a bit rather than having somebody standing right outside the door too. So
It doesn't,
Oh.
no, 100% not, because that's no, because it's still in the law. You still have to monitor. No, this is not, you don't use this to monitor. You have to have line of sight monitoring of the student in seclusion room for obvious reasons. This is in addition to that, so that if that line of sight monitoring falls apart for some reason or something happens and it's like, that didn't happen, staff member says that didn't happen, let's go to the video sort of thing. Like that's the idea.
Thank you for the clarification, Tom. I appreciate it.
However, what it may help with, to Jeff's point, is if a clinician is watching on a cell phone or an
it could be a lot of
administrator
benefits.
and see something, they're
That's
going to
true.
jump quicker.
Yes.
All right, that's a good idea. All right, thank you, Anna. Thank you guys for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And
Watching
then-
the behavior of a student. Yeah.
And then we're also supporting Senate Bill 309. Do I have the right one?
309, the private equity.
Yeah, private equity. And I mean, we've always been contingency special education grant for
Before we jump off that bill, can I just mention one little thing to complicate things? The cameras. I'm sorry, Susan. I don't know if this is included in some sort of other, guidelines that the state puts in place, but how long do we keep those tapes for, right? The storage.
That's a huge question. You're right.
Storage is an issue. And so I don't know anything about it. We would have to look into it, but I just wanted to bring it up just because that is also, right, how long are you going to store it?
And that's where, like, next year we'll address it sort of thing is probably the way they're taking it. Like, let's, a chunk at a time, a step at a time. I don't know anywhere else it is on it. Are you aware of anywhere else? Because where do you have cameras right now that you need to save recordings of? Anywhere?
Like we have them in our vans. We have them in hallways. But
and is there law regarding what Robin just said around, how long you have to save the information? Is it a day, a week, a month?
No.
Okay.
No,
so
but that's kind of like, I don't think we saved them more than like 3 years, because if investigation is going to happen, it's going to happen right away.
But there's no law that you're aware of that dictates that. But again, if there were, Robin, to your point, it's a good question, because then it's like this would get looped into all other school-based cameras or something like that. Follow the same law.
Just for purposes of comment here, it says that it's providing a camera, not video recording equipment.
That's true.
That's the way. Jennifer, Jen, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if we talk about keeping the recordings, like that's gonna make it a record or not a record. So is it maintained by the district? So that's just something like
It
CSD
will
would
be a
have to
student
give
record.
guidance on, even though, you know, there is already federal guidance that says that recordings can be a school record. We would need to make sure that whatever they decide about how long they maintain it, if the family, what the family's right is to access that, and if it becomes part of the student record.
Well, that would be 7 years. You're right. That's a very good catch, Jennifer, because it will absolutely be student record. And then in 7 years, it then has to be turned over to
Robin, have you guys had this conversation on these sort of level of details in this on this bill or no?
I would have to
Not sure.
think about that.
Yeah. No, it's okay. No, it's a good, because these are all good points, and I don't see, based on where we're at, you know, it being March 12th, that these sorts of things would get ironed out in time for changes to get made in the next 2 weeks, right? So like although these are great comments, and I think it's an awesome conversation and things that we could opine on at some point. I don't see it happening right now with this bill. I think they're just trying to get cameras in there to offer everyone some level of protection, and then work out some of the details maybe later, meaning next year. You know, it's just my thoughts on how things generally happen. But
yeah, this is just getting the door open, and then you can add later. So
yeah, rip the door off, right? Because that's what we're trying to do with all the seclusion rooms, is take the door right off. So good analogy. Good.
All right. Anything else then, guys?
I think Susan had something that I interrupted her so rudely.
Susan?
No, I was just saying, I was just wrapping up saying we were doing 309 as well. We were in support of. Nothing.
So 309 and 5325, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other big giant one, and not to belabor this conversation, because I mean there's so many bills in front. I tried to pick out a few that to me rose. If Robin, if you have some other ones that you know come to your brain, but the 5002 is like a big one, you know, and I almost kind of afraid to bring it up because I don't even know all the pieces in it right now. But 5002 has lots of stuff in it. I didn't think we'd be in a position to really dig into that.
Which one is that? Which one is that?
So 5002.
I know it's always the priority.
I know it's exactly one, because it's a priority one, because it's 5002. It's an act concerning education funding, special education, and early childhood programs. So it's got, and it's like a 30-page long bill. So there's quite a lot of stuff in there. But just to highlight, it's make revisions to the foundation amount for the education cost sharing grant, which I think that would be easy. We're all kind of in favor of giving the state giving local LEAs more money, and the charter school funding grant. Number 2, clarify the process for developing the rate schedule for private providers. That gets a little trickier, right, Anna, in that conversation that was brought up last year, and it's clarifying some language that got brought up last year in 5001. So that's the tricky part of this one. And then the third part is providing spaces in early child programs under Early Start for families who become ineligible under income standards for Care for Kids. So that's sort of like, we could probably be behind that. So I just didn't know if there was anything on your radar, Robin, in that one, because it's a priority bill.
I wouldn't bother our committee with it, because
Good enough.
Not only is it a priority bill, but it takes a ton of money, right? And who knows, sometimes those types of priority bills, things will get pulled out of other things and put into it, and then then you're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, right?
Fair enough. Anna?
You know, just to kind of put a little bit of a different perspective, we did, you know, Tom, you know more than any of us about that report about out-of-state placements.
Right.
Anything that we do to reduce amount of placements within the state will increase placements out of state. And any kind of rate setting, I'm just thinking, again, we're nonprofit. Coming from Oak Hill, we're nonprofit. We're not wired that way. But if people are looking to make profit and they want to make an amazing program, are we doing something wrong here and reducing number of placements for students that need it so that they're going to be placed out of state?
Yeah, I again think bigger conversation, and certainly we're going to have right now in this call and today. And this doesn't address that specifically, right? This is just clarifying some pieces. I brought it up because it's the 5002 and it's the big kind of general omnibus big bill, and it has special education in it. So that's why I wanted to bring it up to this group. But I would agree with Robin. I didn't want to make the decision on my own to stay away from this one because there's just too much in it, and there's no way. I mean, I think even given months that we'd have a hard time coming to some consensus on the different aspects of it. So, but I think what you just mentioned, Anna, is worthy of a conversation down the road with this group. I would agree. I look forward to continuing the conversation on that stuff because I think it's an important one. I think it's an important one. So I hear you loud and clear. Trust me. So anyway, sorry to jump in on that last one, but again, there's other ones in front of Ed, but those were the ones that kind of came up to me.
All right, well, let me do this. I have to get to an important meeting for my trial.
Yep.
So we're going to touch on the 309, the 5325 as it pertains to cameras, and a general support for the 430 and the 424 for the ADA and the 504. Okay, is that good?
That's great. And you could even write that up, Jeff, and this happens with a lot of testimonies you see. You can write that up in one letter, right? Regarding 424, bang. Super quick regarding this one, and then we can submit that to all four bills, right? We can just once we submit.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the letter. It's going to pass it by you guys. Hopefully, get a
to Missy. Yeah,
we're going to go to the executive committee.
Perfect.
Get the thumbs up on that. But I'm going to give it to whomever to be the ones that are submitted to the. In other words, actual, computer submission. Yeah. We can
got it.
Search maybe. I don't know.
I vote for Tom to submit because it takes me a half hour to figure out.
So I vote no. I vote no, but I would be happy to help people, whoever submits it, whether it's Missy. No, and my point is my name is going to come up on some of these things, Tom Kosker at Disability Rights Connecticut, and I don't want my name to come up as Tom Kosker SAC, and there'd be confusion there. I'd rather come up as Missy Wrigley Chair of SAC or something like that, or a vice chair. I'm just saying, I can walk you through the process.
Somebody else. So.
Yeah, 100%. Or anyway, I just don't want. Do you feel me? Do you understand where I'm coming from on that? Because we might not agree with everyone SAC on stuff.
No,
so
you don't want to be having it shown wearing two hats because you might.
It's confusing, right? Right. Exactly.
You might at some point for the disability rights express an opinion that's not shared by the SAC, so you don't want to have the confusion.
Yeah, not at some point, currently and in the past. So at many points, that's the case. So
all right.
Do we have letterhead or anything? Like, what do we put official letters?
That's a good question. What have you done in the past, Jeff? Did you
What I've done is that we had that kind of. Sometimes we have like the people holding the puzzle piece type of thing,
So not really. He just he throws something together that looks nice and puts our name on it. No, really, right? I mean, that looks good.
Yeah. Sounds good. As long as it looks like it's official.
Somewhat professional,
I have the puzzle piece type of thing.
Yeah. And has our state advisory council of special education. Blah, 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 blah.
I create a stationery.
And then when Missy, when we do get that cycled through from Jeff to the group to you and to the executive committee, as soon as we can get that done, holler out to me if you need, and I can it's just knowing where to click and which links to hit.
I have absolutely no idea how to do it. Yeah,
it's super quick and easy once you get
hollering.
Yeah. Just holler to me.
I guess I can do it too. I don't know, but I don't have any authority really.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a point you could as a representative of SAC. I defer to you, Robin.
Since it's a legislatively mandated committee, right? I mean,
yeah, but it'd also be nice to have it in actual testimony, so everyone sees it and others public.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. I just admit it, like I can do the physical,
the submission of it. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well,
all right, cool. We'll work that out.
Do we have anything else? Because I have to get to the other meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Is that okay? Anybody?
After talking,
Susan.
So moved. Seconded.
Second by whomever. Everybody seconds, and all in favor. Aye.
Thank you, guys.
I'll get pen to paper after my meeting. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
You could stop the recording.
Okay.
All right.
Have a great day, everyone.